ladies and gentlemen, I am your Destiny Dad. Welcome to the video. Today is our first official real video, and we are going to be doing a review, I suppose, of Xur's inventory. Alright, here we are at Xur. I am sure that this is not the most exciting video of the day that you will watch. Everybody is doing the dungeon race today. I myself do not have a team and don't care to LFG for endgame content such as day ones and things like that. No offense to the larger Destiny 2 community, but I prefer to know that the people that I'm with know what they're doing, if that makes sense. And a lot of the times LFGs just aren't super chill. So with all that being said, let's get into what Xur has to offer us today. First and foremost, he has the Cold Heart Catalyst, which is actually a bang up thing to get. It does improve your Cold Heart. I forget exactly what it does, but I can pull up on my handy dandy dim. Gives you plus 20 stability and plus 20 reload speed, which is not bad at all. Next up we have the Sturm Catalyst, another good one to go for. I don't believe this one affects your gun too much. It gives you plus 20 range and plus 40 handling. So neither of these are mandatory for those guns. Both of those guns are phenomenal on their own. I think honestly if you had to pick between two, Sturm for PvP getting that plus 20 range and the plus 40 handling, I think that is a hard one to pass up on personally. Next up we have Kepri's Sting for our Hunter exotic, a base stat of 61 with high resilience and intellect, and then decently high mobility and strength. For a build that you would want to run with that, that's actually a really solid roll. It has lower stats overall than you'd like to see, but that alignment and those spikes are very nice. Good resilience, good super regen, and good melee regen, as well as having enough mobility to still keep you interested as a hunter. For our Titans, we have Antaeus wards. These have fallen off, but this roll is not too bad. High resilience, high strength, secondary recov, and discipline. Good for your abilities, good for your general stats, and a high roll of 69. That being said, Antaeus wards has kind of fallen off between a few nerfs and just doesn't see much play anymore. With all of that, if you want a pair of Antaeus wards to use, this will be a good pair. Vesper of Radius, Warlock exotic chest piece, stat total of 66. Definitely good. Could be higher, but definitely could also be lower. But the nice thing about this one is it's got 30 recov and 18 intellect. Good lord, those are some beautiful spikes with a decently high stat roll. I already picked this up. I picked it up the first time that I recorded this because it was better than the one that I had saved. But I already recorded that and didn't have my mic, so I won't be picking it up this time.
Do not be alarmed.
This week we also have some ciphers. If you're in the need for ciphers, feel free to pick some up from Xur. Looking at the strange offers that Xur has, same as always to my knowledge, is prisms, cores, glimmer, and banners, with some strange gifts that for me always seem to drop weapons and materials. Some people have said they've gotten good stuff, some people have said they've gotten junk. I don't know. I wouldn't blow all my strange coins on them, but if you need a few to spend, I wouldn't say that it was a worthless time to do that. Next we have strange gear, exotics that you can buy to focus into whatever you like to. There is a Hawk Moon, and this is a very high handling Hawk Moon. Now the one downside is that it's not quite as rangy as you would like it to be. And it doesn't have something boosting its stickiness, so there's no opening shot, there's no nothing like that. But it's fluted, quick draw, and the textured grip. This is quite literally max handling. If you want the snappiest Hawk Moon you can possibly have, here it is. It's not quite as rangy as it could be, but it will still do you good. Up next is Arbalist. Get this bad boy free, basically, for doing some intro campaign questing nonsense. So the average player probably has it, but in case you don't for some reason, pick this up. Don't if you can only get one thing this week, get this. Arbalist is one of the best endgame exotics that you can use. It's right up there with things like Wish Ender, in my opinion, and it's just insanely strong. It intrinsically has anti-barrier, it has disruption and break, so it debuffs itself. And the catalyst is was it Genesis? Yeah. Genesis, so that breaking a combatant shield refills its mag from reserves. Now, I don't believe we have kinetic shields. Like, there's one or two shields that I'm thinking of now, like the shield in Ghost of the Deep on the bosses that you break. They don't technically have an element, so I wonder if that counts for the secondary portion of this perk. But either way, get this. It's a phenomenal gun. You need it. We also have Cold Heart. Cold Heart, another phenomenal endgame gun. I know a lot of people dislike trace rifles, but trace rifles are genuinely very strong. Especially Cold Heart with its exotic perks and the buff to ionic traces up to 7% from 2% on your super regen. Plus, you get the catalyst on the front page, so you can get this and that and have a really good killing machine. Decent DPS, good ad clear, decent ammo economy. Up next we have Darcy. Now, I am a big fan of Darcy in PvP. I've used Darcy for years. I love it. It's my baby. I absolutely adore it. I even have one of the little enamel pins of Darcy. I love this gun. For PvE, however, it has never been great. That being said, it did just get a rework, so that it is essentially the Gallarhorn of snipers. But I don't believe anybody who's tested it has come up and said, oh, this is crazy, it's breaking the game. I think it's still fairly tame. But to that end, if you don't have it, pick it up. I always say, if you don't have something, get it so you have it in your collections, especially exotics. And any loot is good loot, even if it's not perfect, even if it's not the strongest thing in the game. Having something is better than not having something. Someday it might be good, and then you have it, so go for it. Zer's strange weapon engrams. I don't believe that we have a concrete list of all of the weapons that this thing offers. I have frequently spent some strange coins on this, gotten a few decent rolls of a few decent weapons. I'm sure the average person probably won't do that, but there are good things to be had in there. False Promises with Feeding Frenzy and Unrelenting. We've got a decent set of barrel perks here, decent set of mag perks, okay masterwork, and then Feeding Frenzy and Unrelenting. Unrelenting has been slept on for a long time, but now with the Nether, people are finally starting to use it. I think it's a decent perk. I don't think most people are going to go for it over a damage perk, and I don't think that there are many guns in the game that have it alongside of a damage perk. We've kind of come to a point in Destiny where every gun needs a damage perk and a mag boost or a reload perk. Either you're looking for a gun that has double damage or double mags or damage and mag or something along those lines. And when you have things like Envious Assassin, Envious Arsenal, Ambitious Assassin, things like that, and then you compare it to Feeding Frenzy, are you going to go Reconstruction or Feeding Frenzy? Are you going to go Overflow or Feeding Frenzy? Right. So Feeding Frenzy is not bad. It's not as good as it used to be. It did get nerfed, I think, twice. But it's still usable. And if you are chewing through enemies and it's doing work for you, it's doing work for you. Unrelenting, especially in the Nether, if you're looking for specifically for an auto rifle that will heal you, this roll of False Promises will not do you bad. That being said, if you're already running the Nether, I would say farm for an adamantite. That thing is really good. It can also get Unrelenting, I believe, as well as Reciprocity, and a few other really good things that can and will heal you and your allies. Overall, if you want to give it a go, give it a go. I personally will not be picking it up, but I can see how it could be useful. Lock, another auto rifle, a very good auto rifle that not many people use. I like it a lot. I have a couple rolls kicking around in my vault that I pull out from time to time. This one, however, seems to be a weird split between PvE and PvP perks. You got Heating Up, which is decent for PvP, but doesn't provide you with much benefit in PvE. Then you have Adrenaline Junkie, which is really strong and kind of slept on at this point. It was really hot when it came out. Now I don't see many people using it, so I don't know if it's fallen off. I don't know if maybe people have just decided it's not a big enough damage increase. I'm not sure. I still think it's pretty good and have a few weapons with it on it. But these combinations together, I would not personally recommend going for it. That being said, it's not bad. So if you'd like to get a Lock and you want to try it out, go for it. 7th Seraph SMG. This thing is almost good. The gun itself, I like a lot personally. I think more people should use it. I think it's a very fun, cool looking weapon and just feels good to use. I like all these Seraph weapons. I think they're great. Problem is this bad boy right here. Pulse Monitor is not the best in slot at all for this thing. Arrowhead is good. It's really good. One of the better barrels for PvE. Even in PvP, there's a play to be made for it. Full bore is typically a PvP barrel. I don't suggest using it, but if you really want that range, go for it. The Pendant Mag and Extended Mag both are really good with their pros and cons. I would personally go Pendant Mag over Extended. You've got a Reload Speed Masterwork, which is really good for PvE. You've got Vorpal Weapon, and even though a lot of people say don't put Vorpal on primary weapons, I play a lot of Grandmasters, I do a lot of dungeons, I used to do a lot of raiding, and just in general endgame content. What happens in endgame content? You run out of ammo. Guess what? There still is. There's still champions. There's still bosses. So, on your primary weapons, let's say you stun a champion and you want to conserve your ammo, you swap to your primary with Vorpal, and you melt him. Now, is 7th Seraph the most melty gun in the game? No, but you see my point. So, overall, I think this is a good gun. If you don't have a good ARC SMG, go for this one. It'll do you good. I don't think that Pulse Monitor is the best that it could be, but it is an option and it will reload your guns for you. Up next we have Iota Draconis. I love this fusion rifle, but sadly I don't believe there's really any good roll on it. And that might sound a little bit narcissistic, but I don't even think that there is like a good combination that you can get on this. Let me look at what it can roll potentially. Pull that page up while we look at this. This also is another one of those conflicting rolls where it's half PvP oriented, half PvE oriented. Both of these barrels, both of these mags, and the masterwork are also all phenomenal in PvP. But in terms of PvE, none of those really matter all that much. Liquid Coils is decent, but you don't really want it on a high impact for PvE. You would have wanted Accelerated and a Charge Time Masterwork. But even so, Ensemble and Harmony are really not that great in PvP. There are plays to be made for them, and you can make them work, but you shouldn't have to make them work in order to use them. I suppose for PvE, I'm looking at the potential perks here, and I'm really not seeing much of anything. Maybe there's a play for Lead from Gold and Harmony. But in terms of PvP, Under Pressure, High Impact Reserves is what you're going to want to go with. And I would personally not be picking this roll up. I will say that Harmony is a good perk, and it is very slept on. Again, similar to Adrenaline Junkie. Hot when it came out, dropped fast. This is another thing that I picked up on my first record of this. This is a Husgau Arc Rocket Launcher, and it is a max velocity roll, which is very nice in my opinion, and also comes with snapshot and quick draw. So this weapon can be pulled out of your back pocket and aimed and fired incredibly fast. That being said, the only place you would ever use something like that is going to be PvP. Rockets are not really the wave right now in PvP, but Huscow is an old favorite of mine, and I picked one up personally. Thin Precipice is a decent sword. It's not a DPS machine, but it is good at ad clear and building into Strand. I use one on my Titan Strand melee build. I have one with Hatchling on it, I believe. I forget the other perk. Maybe Relentless Strikes. This roll specifically, however, is nothing crazy. I would not go for this for the roll, but if you have not crafted yours, I would pick some up, use some of your harmonizers, or just stick it in your vault until you get some. This week we have the class specific swords, and on the hunters we have Thresh and Flash Counter. Flash Counter did just get a buff / rework, so it is much better than it has been. It's still nothing crazy, and Thresh, while being decent, I would not go for it on a sword personally. I know there are people who use sword as ad clear. I personally don't. The only time I will ever use a heavy for ad clear is if I'm using an LMG and I'm using a special or kinetic as my DPS machine for whatever I'm doing. I would not personally go for an ad clear rocket, an ad clear sword, any of that. That being said, Quick Fang is cool. It looks dope, and it's been one of the sickest swords in the game since launch. So if you don't have one, go ahead and pick it up. Might as well. You'll have one. Now, sadly, these are not the craftable versions of these swords, so if you don't have them, pick them up. If you do have them, you're not going to be able to use the harmonizers on them. For the armor, we've got 65 boots with a high recov and discipline. We've got 67 helmet with a high recov and intellect. We've got a cloak. We've got a 66 helmet. That's not a helmet, that's a chest piece. I am still tired, forgive me. Get a 66 chest piece with 25 discipline, and then we've got 64 arms with 18 mobility, 15 strength, and 12 discipline. If you are a new player, a returning player, or even a veteran who's looking for some spiky armor, pick up this whole set. It's a good set. It's not going to do anything wrong for you. With this set like this, you'll have not quite as high mobility as you would like to, but you will have decent resilience, decent recovery, good discipline, and good strength, with a little bit of help in the intellect department as well. So that is what Xur has for the week. Let's swap over to our Warlock and to our Titan and check out the swords and the armor. I will catch you in a moment. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here we are back at Xur on our Warlock. For our sword this week, we have the Eternity's Edge with energy transfer and Assassin's Blade. I once again do not believe that this is a crazy roll to go for, but it is a very definitely a sexy sword to have. It is a vortex frame. I completely forgot that that was a vortex frame. And if you don't have one, I would recommend going for it just because it looks cool and it's fun to have and swing around. But as far as these rolls, maybe an ad clear roll. I could see that being an ad clear sword. Once again, I don't like swords for ad clear, so to each their own. We have a phenomenal piece of boots with 22 resilience and 28 intellect and a base stat of 66. You do have 10 mobility. It's not going to kill you. You don't want 100 mobility on a Warlock unless you're going into PvP, but a little bit of mobility on your Warlock will not hurt you, despite what many will say. Definitely pick up these boots. I'm pretty sure I already have some with similar spikes, but if not, I will be getting them myself. Next up, we have a 65 stat helm, and this one is not the best, but it's not the worst.
Do not be alarmed.
If you just need a decent helm with a high base stat line, this one's going to do you good. It's got decent strength, So you're going for a melee build, it might be able to help you hit that 100 mark, but overall it's pretty averaging around 10 to 11 per stat. There's not really many spikes, and it's pretty mid, but not mid in the bad way. It's mid in the sense of quite literally middle of the road. The class item, as always, we've got a 62 chest piece with a little bit more mobility than I would like to see, but it's got high recuv, high intellect, and decent discipline. If you are going for an ability spam build, or any sort of ability build really, this would be a decent chest piece to pick up. And for the gloves, we got a 67 with 20 resilience, 12 discipline, and 15 strength. Once again, the arms, the chest, the legs, helmet's kind of mid-ish, but the arms, chest, and legs is a really bang up set of armor. It could definitely be useful to someone who needs those specific stats, or is new or returning. Now, once again, let's dip on over to our Titan and see what else Xur has for us. Hello, once again, we are back at Xur on our Titan this time. For the class specific sword, we have our Crown Splitter with relentless strikes and counter attack. We do have Jagged Edge, and the guard and masterwork are always guaranteed to be that guard and that masterwork, so you don't have to worry about those. That being said, I would not say that this is the god roll. Relentless Strikes is good and one of the best rolls that you can get on here. But with that being said, you're not running around using this sword quite like that. So Relentless Strikes isn't necessarily mandatory, and counterattack is not the best. However, I am not sure how you guys use this sword, if you've used it before. Typically speaking, because of the way that it is meant to be used, I only use it with strongholds on either Solar or Void, depending on which version of the sword I'm using. And I basically run it with add clear weapons and damage weapons and AoE weapons, and I build up my surges and I build up my stacks of charge with light, and then I stun my champion or I break the shield, and then I swap to this weapon and I heavy attack and then put it back in my back pocket, and I don't touch it until I do that again. So realistically, Relentless Strikes is not something that's coming too in handy, but even more so, counterattack is not coming in too handy either, I don't believe. That being said, this roll is definitely good. It could be much, much, much worse, and if you're using it in the same manner that I use mine, how I just described, I don't think you're going to be hurting for much of a better blade than what you have. I would say maybe Surrounded and maybe Tireless would be, for that kind of a playstyle, the better role to go for. But Relentless is very good, and all four of the perks in the last column are good, but Surrounded seems to be the very best one. Looking at the armor, we've got some 63 boots, a low total stat roll, but we have high resilience and high discipline, as well as a decent amount of intellect. Got a 65 helm with high recuv and discipline. A little bit too much mobility, but the recuv and discipline is very nice. We have our class item, 66 chest piece with 16 recovery, 16 mobility, 15 intellect, and 10 strength. This is one that I would maybe pass on unless I specifically needed the spikes in intellect and strength, or recuv and intellect. Once again, just a little bit too much mobility, but if the spikes work and help you reach triple hundreds or quad hundreds or double hundreds, it works. So don't sleep on it. And lastly, we have a 65 pair of arms with 14 mobility, 12 recuv, 15 discipline, and 16 strength. That one, even though it is up there in the mobility department, I would maybe go for it for the discipline and strength combo. It's hard to find those those stats that high on the same piece of armor, and if you're going for an ability spam build, that piece might just push you over to the triple 100 mark. But with all that being said, that is Zur for the week. I hope you guys have enjoyed. I hope I was able to provide some insight into what is useful and what is not. And I hope to see you all coming back here next week. I am going to plan on doing Zur videos every week, and maybe I might do Banshee videos every week, or twice a week, because I know he refreshes twice for some reason. But we'll see about that. We'll see how I'm feeling and how this is going. And with all of that being said, I hope you all have a fantastic day.